optional rules and things like that. If you know somebody takes a lot of energy-heavy laser boats, things like supernovas and junk, things that have got a lot of lasers on them.
Yeah.
Even something like an awesome or a bug or something like that, right? You've got a lot of energy weapons flying around the place. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You just go, oh yeah, I'm gonna put the accidental fire thing. Yeah.
That's cool.
Could backfire on you, obviously. Haha.
All right. So what actually happens when a fire starts? What does that actually mean in your games? So we should have a look at that now, I suppose.
Yes, effects of fire.
Yes.
The most important one is heat.
Yeah.
Obviously. So anything that tracks heat that's in that hex, and it has to be in the ground hex, not above. So if you've got an aerospace fighter like up here, it doesn't matter, but if they land, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But anything that's on the ground in a burning hex, a hex that's on fire and tracks heat, gets an additional 5 heat points. A mech or any other heat tracking unit also absorbs 2 heat points for each burning hex it moved out of along the ground during the movement phase. If you're in, unit occupying a hex ignited during the weapon attack phase of the turn will not be affected by the fire until the heat phase of the following turn. So that's handy to know.
Yeah. So you've got a chance to get out of there
before.
Yeah, and that's really handy if it's infantry and vehicles and whatever, they need to like it straight away.
Yeah, but you'll notice that the 2 points would apply. You won't get the 5 unless you stay there, of course.
Yeah.
But your 2 points will apply because in that turn you will have moved out of 1 hex of fire, so you'll get 2 points.
Yeah.
And they do that. I think they do that intentionally, that you have to move out of the hex. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Oh, look at that. Infantry cannot be used with the exception of flamers.
Yeah, flamers.
And any weapons that have a flame-based special feature cannot be used to start a fire. So no infantry weapons can be used except flaming ones. Proto-mechs. We'll talk about proto-mechs when we get to proto-mechs, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's for mechs. You're basically just looking at heat. Okay, they're not going to get damaged. They're not going to get any of that sort of stuff. I mean, they might explode if the heat gets high enough, I guess, which would be bad. Vehicles, unfortunately, have a bit of a hard time. So anytime a vehicle ends its movement phase on the ground in a burning hex or moves along the ground into a burning hex, this includes hover vehicles but not Wiggy vehicles. VTOL and Wiggy must land in the hex for these rules to apply.
Yeah, so if they're at least level 1,
they're okay.
Yep.
As long as you don't land in a hex, you're all right. So the controlling player must get an 8 or higher on a 2d6 roll. If the roll fails, the controlling player must automatically roll in the front rear column of the appropriate unit's critical hits table with the following modifier to the dice roll. -2 for combat vehicles, which is most of your tanks and high tanks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
No modifier for support vehicles, which is larger stuff.
That's right,
so
yeah.
Your big movers. Unless it has the armor chassis and controls modification.
Yeah, support vehicles I think have extra stuff on them. So.
Yeah, and then you go into multi-hex support vehicles, things like naval vessels, trains, that sort of stuff. They are treated separately, and you have to do different bits for them. We haven't really gone into them, so we won't worry too much about that. You can get mobile structures. And that's fun because, when you enter movement in a hex that's on fire, and remember they can be multiple hexes for mobile structures.
Yeah.
On a result of you roll 2d6, and on a result of 12 or better, the mobile structure catches fire. And if it catches fire, it's treated as a building hex. And that means that it will be on fire for the rest of the game unless someone puts it out.
That's right.
And that's cool. That's one way to take the mobile structures down. Fire has no effect on dropships.
No.
And all other units. So unless the controlling player gets an 8 or higher on a 2d6, any unit that ends its movement phase in the ground on the ground in a burning hex or moves along the ground into a burning hex is destroyed. The unit mounts fire-resistant armor, fire has no effect.
Yeah.
So that is, you'll see they've got mechs, proto-mechs, vehicles, multi-hex support vehicles, mobile structures, dropships, and then all other units. So that includes infantry, battle armor without fire resistant, all of that sort of stuff. So everything else, boom. If you don't get your 8, you're dead.
You're dead. Yeah. Yeah. So again, another reason to take mechs above all other things because they're sealed and whatever. But I mean, that's its thing, isn't it?
It's pretty nasty. And if you remember some of our battle reports from the last few things, especially the missile one, I think we were getting a lot of heat floating around the place in those last couple of games. There was a lot of heat scale maneuver, especially on your side.
I know, right?
Don't know why. Could that be because someone was using Inferno ammo?
I was quite tanned by the end of that battle.
So an extra roasted. An extra 5 heat points, or even just the 2 for moving through them.
Yeah,
that would have really hurt.
Yeah.
So it's a fun time for everybody, I think. Really,
single heat sink mechs or whatever would just be shutting down. That's awful.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
And there's, I don't know. Maybe I'll cover some optional rules at some point. Maybe we'll cover some optional rules at some point. But there are rules in the system here, specifically TAC Ops, I think, that cover degradation of coolant systems, refueling coolant from a coolant truck, heat sink, turning on and off, all that sort of stuff. So if you muck around with somebody's heat scale, you can do some serious damage. What else have we got?
So fire also, fire also creates smoke.
Yes.
And smoke, there's 2 types of smoke.